This show is produced by the Hartman Media Company. For more information and links to all our great podcasts, visit hartmanmedia.com.
Welcome to the AIPIS show for accredited income property investment specialists and those who aspire to be. If you're a real estate, mortgage, or financial professional, this is the place for you. We'll explore innovative investment analysis, sales, marketing, and income-generating strategies for the most historically proven wealth creator, income property. Learn from the experts as they show you how to build a better business and a better life.
It's my pleasure to welcome Natalia Karayaneva. She is the CEO and founder of Propy, and there are a lot of interesting applications and a lot of talk, certainly about cryptocurrencies and the blockchain technology behind them. And today we are going to dive in and talk about how this applies to the world of real estate, where recordings and records are very critical to private property rights. Natalia, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm really great. I hope you're as well.
It's good to have you. We love your accent, and you're coming to us today from Menlo Park, California, but grew up in Russia and Bulgaria. So it's great to have you. Tell us, how can blockchain be used in the real estate world?
Blockchain could be used in this industry in a variety of use cases. These are transactions facilitation, mortgage facilitation, lease facilitation, disputes, automation, everything what concerns sharing economies, Airbnb also. The middleman could be easily displaced by the blockchain technology.
So right now, are we just talking, Natalia, about the concept of recording? When it comes to real estate in the U.S., of course, it varies by country, but in the U.S., it's a fairly simple process, I guess. Someone acquires a piece of property and it's recorded at the county recorder's office with a deed. That's the instrument, right? And, deeds go by various names and there are various types of deeds. But, everyone can just find out who owns the property by looking at the public record. What needs to change, and what would blockchain do?
Well, frankly speaking, the process seems to be simple for those who live in the States and got used to the process. But when you dip in and see that there are 18 middlemen involved into closing a transaction, it shows that the process is too complicated. And when foreign buyers are acquiring properties here, they have to face with many difficulties and differences between the local system and the system that exists in their own countries. And there are many fraud cases, even in the US, for fairly big numbers of funds. So the entire process is not efficient, unfortunately. There are fraud cases with title companies, with recording offices. The title insurance company industry is more than $10 billion, and there is only 6% ratio of loss on premiums.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Let me interject here, if I may.
Sure.
Natalia, title insurance is one of the most ridiculous forms of insurance. What a racket that has got to be. They charge huge fees. When I owned my real estate company in Southern California, and we would sell high-end properties, the title insurance fees on these properties were enormous. And in my many years of doing that, I never heard of a title claim, at least not one that I can ever remember. There may have been some inkling of something, but I certainly don't remember anything offhand. If you ask the title people, if you criticize them about this, and of course they were, out basically giving kickbacks to all the real estate people to refer them business and so forth. And here's the thing, you get the government involved and everything becomes a big scam because the government would regulate the title insurance rates and basically say, well, you have to charge this much. And, they would have to submit their fee schedules to the Department of Insurance in the various states. And they had massive amounts of money left over that they would engage in all these illegal practices, or back in that day, they weren't quite as illegal. They weren't quite as black and white as they are today, where they would just buy business because it was so lucrative and they had all this money sitting around. And then basically, they would get the states to sanction these high rates that they were charging. And when you would criticize them, they would say, well, the reason we don't have many claims is because we do such good research in advance that we prevent title claims. And what they mean there is doing a title search to make sure that there's no other claim on that property when it's transferred. But really a pretty ridiculous business. So feel free to comment on that.
Yeah, and as soon as the records are public in the States, it seems ridiculous that today we still need manual labor to make this title search. I think it's the right time when technology can handle that, and we are seeing a lot of problems with recording offices. There are 3,000 county offices that have to maintain those public records. Every clerk has this headache with which database to choose, which software company to choose. And instead, Propy is developing a decentralized registry on blockchain that could be used by those clerks with no additional expense for changing their current databases. And so in the US, we're soon announcing several pilots with those clerks in different states to prove the concept. And we do believe that if this system has standards and if there is an available platform for the electronic transfer and recording of real estate on blockchain, then the clerks in the counties will have less headache, and then with the time, the title insurance probably will disappear, or at least the title insurance probably will be cheaper for the users. We see that in the other countries, title insurance could not be adopted. And as soon as their systems are efficient and government guaranteed, there is no need of such a tool.
Yeah. It would be nice to see the transaction cost and speed for real estate deals reduced, because it would make the market more liquid. It would, reduce friction on transactions. There would be more transactions. Everybody would be paying less to middlemen, as we talked about. But comparatively speaking, the U.S. is a pretty transparent market, and it's actually relatively inexpensive to transfer real estate in the U.S. comparatively. Now, I know there's a lot of countries to compare it to, but, if you're doing deals I would see that foreign countries need this more than the U.S. does. Would you agree with that? I mean, of course, it depends on what country. You can't paint a broad brush like that.
Our team and myself, we have experience in several countries like United Arab Emirates, UK, European Union countries, post-Soviet Union countries. So what we witness is that the commissions of brokers are at least twice, sometimes even 5 times less in other countries than in the US. And then it depends on the country. Sometimes there are lawyers' fees that are pretty high, but the transfer itself, and especially when there is no need of title insurance, is pretty inexpensive.
Yeah, and that's an interesting, probably for another day and another show to talk about broker commissions, which I think are very high, and I'm probably the only one in the real estate business that actually says or admits that. I think they're kind of ridiculous, frankly. And I've always thought that, even in my many years in the good old-fashioned resale real estate business, traditional real estate business. But part of the reason we have that is we have, again, this perverse marketplace where of course, the government gets involved and they do licensure, but they make it really easy to get a license and hard to lose a license. So the license really isn't that valuable, honestly, but you do have to have it, right? It's a slight barrier to entry. But there's so many people that come into the business because of these exorbitantly high commissions. And so what you see is this perverse issue where all of the brokers, but this is true in many industries. I want to have everybody understand this is not just the brokerage industry by any means. It's true in many, many industries where instead of, there's an old saying by the late Stephen Covey that I really like. And the quote is, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Okay, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And in real estate, we have moved so far away from the main thing of being good at your craft, right? It being good at brokering deals. Now you got to spend all your time doing marketing because the stakes are so high. In other words, the commissions are so high. You sell a $3 million home anywhere in the Socialist Republic of California, and that's a $90,000 to $180,000 commission check. It's insane, And so the brokers now have funneled all of their time, energy, and especially money into the marketing business rather than being actually good at their craft. Now, this is true, obviously, in the legal profession. It's true in many industries, but it's really perverse. It shouldn't be that way, if you ask me. It should be, if there was a more balanced market where people had, I'll call them real jobs, where they were actually making widgets instead of selling real estate to each other, which is not really, shouldn't be part of the GDP necessarily, but it's just the way it is. I don't know. So there's so many people out there, everybody has to find something to do,
Yeah, I totally agree. There are millions of licensed brokers in the US, and of course those high commissions attracting new brokers. And we never know before we interact which broker has a real passion for the profession or they're just attracted by those high commissions. We do believe, though, that with the evolving of the technology, the commissions will start decrease with Propy or without Propy. It will just happen because technology will be the one that will close the transactions. And of course, brokers will remain here in the industry to help the buyers to navigate, to understand better neighborhoods, neighbors, everything that is subjective to a property will be transferred as an information by broker. And Propy, as a company, has the goal to empower brokers, to help them to access foreign buyers, crypto buyers, new channels of revenue. Propy is here to help to close transactions faster with just several clicks on their phones. So I wouldn't say that the broker industry will be disrupted, but it will be influenced heavily.
Right. But really first, what your company is going to impact is just the closing cost part of the industry, not the broker commission directly, but the more the title insurance is really, that's your competitor, right?
I wouldn't say right now that the title company is our competitor. We are actually working with several title companies, and they are participating in our closing procedures right now. So they log in into our system and fill in the information that we need. So the seller still has to go to the title company to sign the agreement. It's again not the agreement, but closing documents. It again depends on a state, but in many states, due to regulatory environment, we have to use title companies. But when we talk about title insurance, it's not obligatory right now for our customers because we target cash buyers. And so for cash buyers, it's not obligatory. So the title companies are mostly helping us in the beginning with title search and closing documents.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so take us through the steps of how it works. Just quickly, just tell us exactly what happens here. So someone buys a property and someone is selling a property. What do they do?
So imagine like Zillow, you go at Propy and browse for properties. It could be a Chinese buyer looking for a property in native Chinese language. And once they identify a property, let's say in California, in San Francisco, then they click several buttons. So they first can communicate with the broker, with our messenger, or they just start the transaction. After they initiate the transaction, the broker will invite the seller to the system. The title company will be invited to the system as well. Once all the parties accepted the invitation, the system sends the purchase agreement to all parties. Then they sign this purchase agreement electronically at Propy platform. At this point, the smart contracts notifies all the parties that the signatures are received.
And the smart contract is really part of blockchain?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
So every step is recorded on blockchain and is supervised by this smart contract. And once we have the purchase agreement signed, the payment instructions are being sent to the buyer, and the buyer is doing the payment. Again, every step is recorded on blockchain. For now, we're doing crypto payment, but the next step will be payment in dollars as well.
Mm-hmm.
And here we work with the money transmitter. Once the payment is executed, the seller will be invited to the title company office to sign the agreement. Then the title company notifies the system that the signature is there and will upload the document into our system. Then we issue a title deed where there is a hash of this general smart contract. Then this title deed will be recorded normally at the local recording office if we don't have a collaboration with them. If it is integrated, then Propy will electronically submit this title deed.
Okay, so let me stop and ask a question, if I may.
Sure.
So why do they need to go to your website and buy only a property on your site? Can't they just buy any property and use this system, or no?
Yeah.
Like, I was kind of surprised you talked about buying properties on your website, and then you also talked about going to a title office. Like, what are they doing there? Isn't that what we're trying to avoid, or no?
Yeah, we're trying to avoid it, but as of now, in order to meet all the legal implications,
ultimately
they have
you leave
to,
that, right?
Yeah, they have to go. Let's say in Florida, they will need to go to a notary, so we can avoid title company there. But in California, they will have to go to title company and put signature there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting.
As of now, but we're working with several states, and we're helping to write and to give our input into the new laws regarding smart contracts and real estate to improve the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. So how do you make money?
Good question. So first of all, we charge a very small commission, 0.2% from brokers, from those high commissions that they receive, if we find a deal for them. So if they will close transaction, then we charge a small commission. Then when the transaction is done, and when there is a record on our blockchain that the ownership transfer happened, then there is a fee being paid in Propy tokens, which is a relatively small fee. Depending on a case, it could be between $1 to $10.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting. I'm sort of puzzled as to like, you're also in the property business, it sounds like, where you're basically helping broker these properties, like you're referring deals to brokers and people are finding properties on your website as well. Are those just properties you're scraping off the MLS or Zillow or something, or are they listed with you?
Both. So we are having listings from MLSs, and we're also seeing a lot of brokers to list their properties directly with us, especially those that aim to transact in Bitcoins or Ether.
Mm-hmm.
They just list properties with us, and we're receiving hundreds of listings every week. So it's both.
Right. Good stuff. So what is the future of this? Just wrap it up for us, if you would, and of course, give out your website.
Our website is propy.com. And again, just to elaborate a little bit, we are developing a marketplace, a global marketplace in several languages where people could search for properties and do payment for properties. And then there is decentralized token economy for real estate where properties could be recorded and transferred entirely on blockchain. And we're trying to build a government agnostic system that will help governments to see the ownership transfer transparently, to get better tax collection, and so on. So many governments, especially in developing countries, are willing to adopt this blockchain registry and just to get information from there rather than control this registry.
Isn't that amazing? You know, governments need to hire innovative entrepreneurs such as yourself to set up the systems for them. It'll be so much better. So I can really see a huge demand in developing countries for your kind of system. And you know, will also be interesting to see if it gets adopted in the U.S. as well. I mean, the system we have now is extremely slow. They still send out paper deeds. It's just mind-boggling. It's also mind-boggling to me that we actually still use checks for anything. And you know the other mind-boggling thing, Natalia? Keys. Why are we using keys? It's 2018. I don't know why I have keys in my pocket. It's shocking, but whatever. Leave it to an innovator like yourself to come up with better solutions. So good. Thank you so much for joining us. Did we cover everything?
Yeah, I believe so. Thank you so much for interesting discussion.
All right. Happy investing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.